So before any speaking engagement, I like to, as you can see, there's nobody here. I like to take some time by myself. I need to pray, I need to meditate, I need to ask God to bless me with the right things to say so that it resonates with the people in the room. Whether it's 2 people, 200 people, 2,000 people, I never take for granted the position that I'm in to share my story and my life experiences. I've been under the radar for the last 6 or 7 months, really just doing things that make me happy. You haven't seen me on stage, you haven't seen me at any events, you haven't seen me in the streets. I haven't been doing anything but running my company and hanging out with friends and crashing weddings and horseback riding and swimming and playing Little Mermaid with my godchildren and kicking it with the elders in my family. Like, it's been phenomenal. The most regular, degler, schmegler summer of my life, and I loved it. I haven't been on a plane in a minute, but that's all about to change because this is the kickoff of, I don't want to say it's my comeback because I've been here, but today's the first day that I actually feel more alive and alert. And I'm looking forward to engaging with you more often. I haven't been posting on social media. Like, I'm sure you've noticed the absence because when I'm in the room, I make a lot of noise. However, I look forward to speaking at this event. We're currently at the Ritz-Carlton in Toronto, Canada, and it's an event called First Sundays, hosted by the ladies of Run the World Summit. We're gonna be talking about entrepreneurship, mental health. I'm gonna be talking about how to maximize networking opportunities. It's going to be a blast. Moving forward, you know, I'm gonna be here, there, and everywhere. I have to go to New York, LA, Atlanta, Miami. So yeah, you can expect more content from me. Damien and I are gonna get together. We're gonna do an entire recap video so you can learn why I took a seasonal detox, a sabbatical, if you will. And I look forward to getting deeper with you, and I love you. Pauleanna is a woman who has fought for her dreams and won. I am someone who is passionate about entrepreneurship. I think that's obvious, but I'm also very, very passionate about mental health advocacy, mentorship. I spend at least 20 to 30 hours with young people every single week outside of my already grueling schedule. I'm someone who believes that second chances exist and that, you know, God has greater plans for our life that really don't involve crying at night or believing that we're broken. And so I try to lead my life in a way that shows people that, you know, there is life after disappointment.
So would you say that that is Pollyanna now? And was that Pollyanna before?
I would say, yeah, absolutely. I think that the difference now is just, you know, the titles, the accolades. I think society is so addicted to the resume. And I love the first question that you asked because I think it's really important to understand who we are beyond the awards and the certifications and all of that stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, like, I like to see people's heart, and I like to hope that when they enter into my space and my energy, they left better than when they came.
When they came.
Yeah.
I want to know, like, I want to go years back.
Mm-hmm.
Who was Pollyanna years ago? Because I know you mentioned mental health is really important to you.
Right.
I want to understand why, but I want to know where your headspace was at years ago first.
Yeah.
And then how that sort of grew, because what you said is like, that's like someone that has grown and that has seen things and that has gone through things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to know, before you've seen and gone through things, sort of where your headspace was at in terms of who I am.
I think we all have similar threads in our story, right? Like, you know, when we're younger, we are conditioned to believe that we can fly to the moon and we can be anything and everything we want to be. Then you enter high school and they tell you that you need to be a little bit more realistic. And many of us get caught in that gray area. That's where my mental health story started to unravel. I've always struggled with anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation and attempts. I was not diagnosed until 2010, but my entire childhood, adolescent years were filled with many symptoms. So when I got stuck in the gray area, and one of my childhood friends is here who's known me for so long, like mental health is not something that you can see, right? So like I wouldn't even be surprised if she, you know, as I'm talking and sharing my story, if she was like, that's interesting, if she learned some new things about me today, right? So I was bullied in school. Like high school were the worst years of my life. I spent a lot of time alone. You know, I was friends with my bullies as a means of survival. I would spend time by myself in the girls' washroom, in the library, in the cafeteria. I would doodle. I can't even look at you because I'm gonna cry. I can't even look at you. Just because I'm very nostalgic. It's interesting, a lot of people struggle with making friends as adults. I have quite a few friends who, like we have long-term friendships, 10, 20, 30 years. So when I see her, it makes my heart smile.
Because she's such a good friend to you.
Yeah, she's awesome. But she was in my high school, so she knows the bullshit we had to go through. So when I would doodle my sketchbook or, you know, journal, that's when I felt a sense of peace. And in those quiet moments, it felt as if life was perfect. So I'm like, I want to be a writer. Like that's where the seed was planted, but I didn't know how. I didn't know how, like what steps to take. I also grew up with a learning difference. I have an intellectual disability, like a processing deficiency. So my brain has trouble digesting information and keeping up with the information that's digested by my senses. And so I failed every course imaginable. I failed grade 9 and 10 math and science. I failed grade 11 and 12 English. And so like it's by a lot of people's standards, like I'm not qualified to do a lot of the shit that I do because my report card was so bad. I was in summer school and night school every single year. I believe that the education system paints us all with one big broad brush. I was conditioned to feel like a dummy when really I just learned differently. And I didn't even realize that there were so many different learning styles until I was much older. And so during that time in my life, I was, you know, just trying to figure things out like everybody else, like every other woman. You try to figure out womanhood, your sexuality, you know, the type of friends you want to hang out with, you know, what you want to do with your life. So I entered college and I followed mommy and daddy's instructions. I listened to my teachers and my guidance counselors, and I chose a program that was not aligned with what I wanted to do. I ended up spiraling into depression. I had 2 suicide attempts. And as a result, you know, when God spared my life and gave me a second chance, I told myself that I was going to dedicate the rest of my years to figure out what my purpose was, and I decided to drop out of school. During exam week of my second year in college, I ripped up my paper and I said, I'm out. Like, I'm going to figure this shit out, and I turned the world into my classroom.
Oh, I love that. Can we?
Yeah. I love you.
So I mean, as long as you're comfortable speaking about it,
Yeah.
I want to talk about because I've read it in some articles. You've talked about it when, and you just mentioned, you know, you have tried, you know, in the past to actually. Before I even ask you this, you said a point. You're like, and then Jamila said it that you masked it very well, and mental health doesn't look like
Right.
a certain, you know. A certain experience.
Mhm.
And that reminded me of a conversation I had with Michelle Williams at a Self-Made Summit last year, because she was battling through mental health, and she also got she got admitted into you know, a hospital for depression and anxiety. And she mentioned that one of the questions that you get asked a lot within our communities and our families is, what do you have to be depressed about?
Yeah.
You're part of Destiny's Child. You're a singer. You're singing with Beyonce. You're
Right.
singing with the Dollars. What do you have to be? Was that a question that you faced as well? Like, you know, your life is good. What do you have to be?
Well, I think if you're young, nobody thinks you deal with anything, right? And so I wrote a book in 2014 called Everything I Couldn't Tell My Mother. And for me, I've always known that in order to receive blessings of any kind, you have to let go of anger, fear, resentment, a lot of the baggage. So writing that book was very therapeutic for me, because outside of what I've explained to you, I also have a lot of childhood traumas that I'm growing through and healing through. And so, yeah, when you are young, in your teens and your 20s, people don't think you have shit that you have to deal with. But by the time I was in my 20s, I'd already lived 9 lives, right? I was in physically abusive relationships. I was, I had a teen pregnancy and I had an abortion. There's so much, we don't need to go through the whole timeline, but I had a lot of emotional baggage that I had to work through. And so, because you don't pay a mortgage at the time, because you don't have certain bills, people, adults in your life think that they compare. And the thing is, it's like, there's no comparison. How I deal with my shit and how you deal with yours is going to be very, very different. And everyone's recovery process is very different, right? Now that I'm in a space of navigating the world through a different lens, like I understand that physical activity and therapy are preventative measures. Like I don't wait until I spiral out of control to call my therapist. I have a great medical team. Like the one thing that kind of changed everything for me was raising my hand and asking for help, right? And I think oftentimes we feel like we're alone, but the more I have these conversations is I realize that everyone is fighting private battles behind closed doors, right? And so when I raised my hand, I was diagnosed in 2010. And when I finally spoke to my doctor, like that's when things started to change for me. Now, your recovery process is a lifelong process. It's not just done in a day or a few months. But it was definitely, I was definitely starting to look ahead and, feel positive about the direction I could take my life.
What would you say was the thing that saved you during, your attempts? What was that like? Oh my God, I need to get my life together. I need to move forward.
Honestly, just support. Like when I went to my doctor, the support that he gave me was phenomenal, and it made me just realize, had I spoken up sooner, I probably wouldn't have got to such a dark place. I just think most people feel alone. I think most people assume that other people don't care, that they have no one in their corner. So they just suffer in silence and they just feel like, I can just deal with it on my own. The truth is you can't deal with it on your own. You need some sort of village. And that's why, when I interact with people, I try my best to do it with intention, because you don't know what season they're in, what transition they're going through. There are many, all of us have probably been on a Zoom call fighting back tears at some point in the last 3 years because we were dealing with a funeral we couldn't go to physically because, it's virtual, or we were dealing with family members who were dying from COVID, or we were dealing with a boss that was a fucking asshole, right? Like, all of us have had to suck it up. And as women, naturally, we just try and suck it up and we move forward and we take care of the house and the family and we put our needs aside. But, when I faced my 2 incidents, that was, I was very, very grateful, and I wanted to move forward, with intention.
I wanted to move forward with intention.
Yeah. And the other thing I'll say is what I've learned on this journey is that, like, the best way that I know how to climb out of any hole that I'm in is gradually, right? It's never just like a 1, 2, 3 ABC step process. Like my recovery process spans so many different mediums and people, group therapy, individual therapy. I've been on several medications. I spend time in nature. I train, I work out, even the foods that we eat affect our moods, So there's so many different formulas and things. I have friends that I can call when I get into a spiral, and I don't even have to say anything. They can feel my energy and they know what to do. You know what I mean? So I think that it's really important. I also want to point out how messed up our healthcare system is. And I do know that the care that I received is a privilege. My doctor is white and he's wealthy and he's a celebrity. When my parents selected him, they didn't know, obviously, that's not why they chose him. But I also know that put me in a position where I had access to healthcare programs and services, whereas a lot of my friends are on waiting lists for up to 2 years. So while I say it's, reach out to your healthcare professional, that is a first step. But I think that, oftentimes you could start right at home. And if you have a village, a best friend, someone, a colleague that you can talk to. Sometimes when I navigate the world of business, and if any of you have businesses, or even in the corporate world, I was in the corporate world for 10 years before I quit, there are people who share similar experiences. And so sometimes having a talk with a girlfriend can help defuse a situation or make you feel better, because y'all can connect on something that you've both gone through.
Yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about when it comes to the healthcare. I'm sure a lot of you have gone through this crappy healthcare system and felt stuck. I think one of the things, because I'm recently going through it too, and I think one of the things is advocacy. And it's really, if you're not advocating for
Yeah,
yourself, and, like,
absolutely.
pushing those damn doors with your kneecaps,
Yeah.
like nobody's gonna give a shit. Nobody's gonna even give you the time. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. And their response is, yeah, we're very pressured. We're very, we have long waiting lists. But I think I wanted to ask you, and that was a great segue, was, for those that don't have that like sister circle, for those that don't have even like a mom or a dad or like someone to look up to, or someone to have a conversation with. One of the things that you've started is mentorship.
Right.
You've been doing that for quite some time. So would you suggest maybe finding a mentor if maybe not, you don't have a sister circle, you don't have a community?
But there are a lot of communities available. That's the thing. Like, a lot of us are oftentimes a part of communities, and we're not maximizing the opportunities that present itself, right? And so one of the communities that come to mind is called Black Moms Connection. My friend Tanya, she runs it. It's a community of over 30,000 moms from around the world, right? They have live events, they have virtual events, et cetera. They have a private Facebook group, right? They're at this point, at this stage in the game, there's a community for everything. So I would say, like, definitely look for your tribe, look for your community, try to be an active participant, not just a spectator. Mentorship is very important, but mentorship is not always, vertical. Sometimes it's horizontal. Like, you can look to your left and your right, and you can have peer mentors as well. Mentorship is not always like face-to-face. Sometimes there's distant mentorship, and when I say distant mentorship, I mean, there's oftentimes women or men that we admire. They don't know who we are, but we learn from, when I was young, or in my 20s, I was an avid reader. And so, like, I love to read autobiographies, watch documentaries, and pick up on things. And you realize that, like, every great superstar, executive, entertainer, CEO was once an amateur, just like you. You realize that there's common threads and themes and dots that you can connect that make you understand that, like, everyone starts at zero. Everyone has shit in their back closet, and we're all working through things at our own pace. So I don't compare myself to anybody. I run my own race. Like, I'm not in competition with anyone but myself. And, like, I'm just, I'm doing me. If I don't have certain box checks by a certain age, I don't stress out about it, right? I try my best to design a life that I don't want to escape from. And so how I design my life is like that. I play by my rules, not anybody else.
Mm. I want to talk about the healing journey, before we talk about ghostwriting and your sort of escape into writing, and
Sure.
how that was so healing for you. So what would your piece of advice be in terms of, like, people that are struggling with mental health? Like, what would the first step be in the healing journey, or what was your first step in the healing journey?
So, like, I have to tread this conversation lightly, only because, like, it's so much more complex than just surface level. Like, we're not talking about a paper cut or your puppy's sick. Like, we're talking about, depression to the point where you can't get out of bed. We're talking about depression to the point where you don't see light at the end of the tunnel, where you don't think that it matters whether you live or whether you die. We're talking about endless tears for weeks. We're talking about showing up in front of your peers and trying to mask how you really feel. Like, it's not like, I feel like the world is going through a mental health crisis right now, and it's not being addressed, and it's actually, like, really disheartening. First step, reaching out to a medical professional. I think, like, whether or not you think the medical care system is good, bad, ugly, whatever, like, I think just trying is the first step. Second step is trying to connect with peers, mutual interests, mutual experiences. Third step, lifestyle changes. I think people really underestimate the power of the sun. I think people underestimate the power of grounding yourself, bare feet in the grass. I do that every morning. I think people underestimate the power of prayer, whether it's the universe, whether it's to God, whoever you believe in. I think people sleep on the nature of foods and like how that plays a role in your chemistry and in your moods. The music you listen to, the lyrics, like the energy, the people that you allow into your space. Like, I have a girlfriend who's pregnant and she don't be letting anybody touch her belly, because you don't know what kind of energy, what kind of devils, what kind of witchcraft people be coming with. Like, it's really important that right? Like it's not. But it's very true, right? So like I think focusing on lifestyle changes, even physical activity, like there's a lot of research that proves that physical activity is linked and connected to, your mental health, your mental acuity, right? Like your energy levels. And so I think like low-hanging fruit, lifestyle changes, but all of the above as well. And just understanding, be patient with yourself because like I said, I still battle every single day, right? Like I still have to affirm myself. I still have to talk to myself in the mirror. And it's something that, I'm navigating and will continue to navigate because, I have a lot of good days, but like, yeah, when the days are low, they're hitting the floor. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Are y'all enjoying yourself so far? We good? Like we on the same page? Okay, good. Just have to do a temperature check real quick.
So I want to talk about your healing process in terms of writing. So what, you started back in 2009. What was your vision like for, what did your vision look like then? And what is a ghostwriter for those that don't know?
Good question. Okay, so I started my career writing for newspapers back in 2010, 2011. One of the lessons that I want to point out, so before newspapers, I started my career as a blogger, right? And so those of you who are working on passion projects and maybe you're not getting the traction, the likes, or the attention, it's really important to understand that like you just don't know who's watching and what power they hold, right? So I had a mentor in my life at the time. She says, if you want to be a writer, you should be writing. And so I think building in public is also another lesson to take note of. If people don't understand or know what you're up to, they can't help you and they can't serve you. And so I was committed to my blog. I probably got 12 views a month, like whatever, but I was really proud of it, right? It was my thing. And so, after a year of her watching me from the sidelines, she called me up and she's like, hey, I have an opportunity of a lifetime that I think you're ready for. I've been noticing your dedication, your commitment, your passion. And then I started my career as a freelance journalist for writing for every major newspaper across the country. I went from 12 eyeballs a month to hundreds of thousands of viewers across the country, and with one phone call. From there, I released my book in 2014, and then my career evolved into becoming a senior freelance contributor on Forbes.com. And then in the midst of that, I realized that I needed ownership of something in order to catapult my career, right? And so ghostwriting came about when I read an article in 2014 of a woman who told her story. And so one of the reasons I love public speaking is because it then creates a possibility model for people who are looking at me on stage, right? And so for those of you who are thinking about public speaking, who may not think your story is significant, I really think it's important to, number one, talk to Jamila because she's a public speaking coach and she's phenomenal, but also understand that this is not about you. It's about people who need to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's about people who don't even know. I didn't even know what a ghostwriter was until I read the article. So when I read the article, I was like, okay, I put it in my back pocket because I believe in timing and sometimes you just don't jump on ideas right away. And so it wasn't until about 2015, 16 is when I started the ball, getting it rolling. Now, I do believe before jumping into a business idea, you need to test it and experiment first. So I worked part-time remotely for one of my mentors who had an agency in Philly. And that's how I got my first, few celebrity jobs, and then I transitioned into starting my own agency in 2017. A ghostwriter is essentially someone who adapts your voice to produce content. You have ghostwriters who specialize in books. You have ghostwriters who specialize in speeches, and ghostwriters who may specialize in, marketing content, social captions, articles, etc. My agency does pretty much everything. We help, people of influence and power turn their personal stories into brand assets. The reason why I call it an asset is because, right now, well, I wouldn't say now, but in recent years, people have thought about how to leverage content so that your legacy can live on after you die, right? And so an asset is in a speech or a book, etc. Your kids can eat from it.
So of everyone, up until now, I'm sure you've written and written and written, and you've met with so many people from, all walks of life. Who, if you're comfortable sharing, who has had the most impact on you in a positive or in a life-changing way?
Yeah, that's a good question, but because we have cameras, I can't say. I like to keep my clients, privacy, private. However, I mean, I get to listen. For sure. I get to listen to stories for a living, right? So like thousands upon thousands upon thousands of interviews, and I get to spend hours with people. I get to job shadow them. Like I learn from everybody first of all, I don't take clients that I don't actually like. And second of all, like I get to be a fly in the wall, and I essentially know where all the bodies are buried. If shit goes down, I know what we need to do, but that would never happen on my watch. And when you hire a ghostwriter, you're not just hiring someone to put pen to paper. You're hiring a problem solver, a critical thinker, a structural thinker. You're hiring someone who can help you navigate cultural, societal, generational sensitivities. You're hiring someone who is a project manager, a confidant, a human diary, like an architect. You're not just hiring someone to take your story and put it on paper. That's literally step one of many, right? And so, yeah, like clients trust me with their legacies because one wrong move and that's it. It's a wrap, right? They can get canceled. They can lose their livelihoods. And so my job is very high stakes, high stress. To give you an example, graduation season. So my team was very busy with commencement speeches. And so, we're impacting the next gen. This is not something that we take lightly. These individuals are selected, carefully selected to speak to the graduating class. And so we get called to help them organize their ideas. Just because you hire a ghostwriter does not mean you're incompetent, does not mean you can't write. Sometimes you don't have time. Sometimes your mind is organized chaos. And you need to streamline your ideas. And so, they are speaking in front of a graduating class and every single word makes a difference. Words are very powerful. Words can, bring peace or it can ignite a war. And so I take the job as a storyteller very seriously for that matter. Another meaningful project, I have the opportunity to, I won't say I because there's a team. I lead a beautiful collective of all women of color storytellers. So we had the opportunity to write a speech for someone who spoke at George Floyd's funeral, which all of you know that was aired on CNN. All of you know the incidents surrounding, why we collectively, were in such turmoil. And that's a situation where you have one shot. You have one shot to make an impact. And so clients really appreciate having a thought partner. And clients really appreciate having someone or a space where they can share their ideas with a full heart and 10 toes down.
So what do you believe would be your biggest responsibility as a storyteller? Be it for someone that, people already know, they're super well known, or for someone that hasn't had their story heard yet?
So I think all of us in this room, I think our responsibility is to be possibility models for other women. And so that doesn't always look like being on stage. That is the person that you speak to when they cash you out at the grocery store. That can be, a family member. It could be a mentee. It can be the person sitting beside you. I think those one-on-one interactions are very important. I think as a journalist, my responsibility is to amplify marginalized voices because oftentimes, well, we all know the media conglomerates are run by white families, white men, and we see the same names in all the headlines. And so my job is to break through that ceiling and make sure that I advocate for unsung heroes and also advocate for anonymous extraordinaries. It's one of my favorite TED Talks. ensure that we are able to see diverse stories. As a ghostwriter, I believe that we have an epidemic of bad leadership, to be honest. I work for the good guys and the bad guys. And, I started ghostwriting for a few different reasons. Like, I was really, really upset because I saw too many people abuse their influence and power. And I would think to myself, who's sitting at the table? Like, who's advising these individuals? And so I then took it upon myself to pull up a seat, and my responsibility is to challenge people in these positions to really think about what you stand on, so your morals, your values, your belief system, who and what you're fighting for, what conversations you want to contribute to. Like, there's oftentimes what happens is, they're surrounded by yes men. And so people are scared to lose their jobs. Well, I don't work for you, so I'm not scared. So I'm gonna ask the tough questions. And so my responsibility is just to make sure that people are challenged and make sure that people understand the power of community and the power of their platform, and that they're very intentional. That's a theme here today with the way they move throughout the world.
And, one of my final couple of questions here, and this is one of my favorite questions, and it's one of the questions that we asked everybody on the program card, and that I'll read out loud to you just so you can hear everybody's responses, is if there was one word that putting your life into like one word, what would that one word be to describe yourself, and why?
That's a very hard question. Confident. I'll say confident. Yeah, because I still remember and still have memories of what it felt like not to have it. So confidence is definitely my word, because as you can tell, like, ain't nobody can tell me nothing. So like, you know what I mean? So like, and I know what it feels like. So I worked in the corporate world for 10 years as an executive assistant to presidents and CEOs across industries, okay? And so what I've learned from being in those rooms is that even if you don't know the answer, even if you don't know what you're doing, you better walk in with your head held high, your shoulders back. You better walk in with that strut. You better walk in looking, you know what I mean? Looking hella confident, because like, how people perceive you is directly related to how they treat you, right? If you have bad posture and poor body language, like, they are going to attack, you know what I mean? And so oftentimes, oftentimes, like, I've been at, I'm sure we all have, we've been in rooms with men, and like, it's the men that will really try you. And so if they notice that you are not prepared for the battle or the war, trust me, baby, you losing. So you have to really make sure. And a lot of times, and we don't have to get into this conversation, but but a lot of times, like, as a woman, what I've learned is like the importance of navigating the fine line between masculine energy and feminine energy. I'm very masculine today because I'm on my shit and I'm feeling really good. But there's also like, I don't want, so anyways, because in my head, when I think of men, I think of all the men that try to negotiate rates with me, that try to belittle me, that maybe didn't believe that I was capable of handling a certain job or client or situation. And what I've learned is that sometimes, like, even if you're unsure, like, you have to step to them like you're a gangster. Like, you really have to believe that you can and you will, and just put numbers on the scoreboard and like let your results like show and prove what you got. Networking is an interesting topic, and I have a lot to say. Let me filter my thoughts. When going into first of all, I'm proud of you for showing up. Let me just say that. I'm very, very proud of everyone for showing up, because I know that, some people are introverted and just not, this is just not their vibe, and it took a lot for them to be here. When I go into any networking event, I don't expect to work the room. If I walk away with one or two really great new friendships or contacts, like, I'm very, very happy. I always have my elevator pitch on deck. I know how to confidently introduce myself, because here's the thing, right? Like, if you are very nonchalant, if you don't take shit seriously, if you think I'm just gonna show up and whatever happens, happens, it's like, if you cannot be interesting if you're not interested. right? And so like, that's very important to take note. Like, you need to ask yourself, am I the type of woman that world-class performers would actually want to fuck with? You know what I mean? Like, how do I show up in the room? What does my energy say about me? Like, you know, am I putting some bass in my voice? Am I like confident? Do I have a wet noodle when I shake people's hand? Like, these are the types of things that are very important that I think people overlook. Also staying, we were talking at lunch the other day, just being organized with their contacts. So like Ghana, nobody really carries business cards anymore. However, like I'll tell you how I stay organized, because I network with maybe like 400 people a year. So for me, I have a spreadsheet, right? Like, I'm very old school geek. Like, I love, Microsoft Office. I have a spreadsheet, and it organizes, the most basic information, like location, title, whatever. But then I have a column for like, what did we speak about in our conversation, so I can personalize the follow-up conversation. I have a column for when I hope, the date that I hope to follow up, or whether or not, I have a column for whether or not you're a hot, warm, or cold lead. I have another column for whether you're a high or low priority, right? Like, staying organized, it's not just enough to just like collect cards, collect Instas. Yeah, it's just like, I just don't understand. If you're going to be a master relationship builder, it has to be intentional. It can't be, it can't be lazy, because let me tell you, a contact can change your world, right? You never know, the next email, the next text, the next phone call, and I'm always online. Like, people will call me at 2 a.m. They'll be like, I knew you were gonna pick up. Yeah, because I'm out here. Like, I am very intentional with how I network, because you never know what phone call or text or email is gonna change your life. And I've had many, many, many life-changing instances where people hit me up, or we connected, or, one of my most popular interviews today with Rachel Rogers, who's phenomenal. She's the founder of, the founder of Hello 7, but the author of We Should All Be Millionaires. One of my really, really good friends connected me to that opportunity, and we connect maybe twice a year, but when we connect, right? So it's not about having a million Zoom calls and a million contacts. It's about depth, not width.
Mm. And, to share some of the responses that we've got today is, what are you really looking to achieve from being here? So a common theme is obviously connections and creating meaningful connections, networking with like-minded women. As a writer myself, I'm looking forward to learning more about the industry from a writer.
Awesome.
Meeting new people and being inspired. Meeting some wonderful women and learning about the
exciting things they do.
Mm-hmm.
Networking, meaningful connections, and someone actually wrote Pauleanna.
Awesome. I also think the last thing I'll say on the networking piece is to like ask great questions. I feel like you'll get further in your conversations, you'll get further in your relationships. If you don't ask, like, don't talk about boring shit that like doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like really try to ask. Tony Robbins, I can't even remember the quote, I'm not even gonna butcher it, but there's a quote that he has around asking great questions, that asking great questions enhances the quality of your life. And so I think, by taking that thing seriously will enrich, the types of interactions that you have.
I love that. And I think one of the common conversation pieces we've had too is when you're meeting somebody new is don't expect to get. Mm-hmm. Always give. Start off with giving, because you will receive at some point. But if that's your first intention, then it's not going to be a very favorable relationship.
So, great advice.
Yeah, with that, it doesn't have to be like transactional. It can be like they can fill your cup with just a word or two,
or even a quote. Like
yeah.
I loved it. We just want to thank you, Pauleanna.
So as a ghostwriter, I'm sure you hear a lot of people's stories as they, expand and open up to you. How easy is it to adopt their voice, to get their voice right?
Okay, that's a really great question. So I'm gonna tell you what my team does. I don't know about any other ghostwriter. So from the moment I connect with you on a discovery call, I'm studying you, right? I am listening out for breath patterns. I'm listening out for pronunciation. I'm listening out for how serious or humorous you are. I'm listening out for language specific to you. I'm going to ask you what words are on your blacklist. Those are the things that I look out for, in addition to watching videos, listening to podcasts, reading some of your work, etc. Most of the time we hit it on the head, but there are times where we work in collaboration with the individual to get it right. But I mean, we've been doing this for quite some time, so we know everyone has a very unique personality, and so we do our best to study the client as much as we can so that we can be as accurate as we can.
What's your favorite part of what you do? Like, it's just your entire story is so inspiring and so uplifting. Yeah, so I'm curious, like, what is your favorite part of what you do?
So I am a part-time college professor, and honestly, that is the favorite part of what I do in this season. It changes. So I, as someone who was a troubled kid who failed a lot of classes, as someone who feels like the public education system failed me, I am very passionate about youth education and children's literacy. We gotta look out for the babies, yo. Like, we really gotta look out for them because, the curriculums are dusty and crusty. The teachers are not currently in the field, so they're so far. That's a blanket statement. Most teachers are not currently in the field, so they're so far removed from what's happening. By the time students graduate, they just don't have the tools that they need in their toolbox to really champion the industry. And so, I literally don't have time to teach, but I want to make time because, I can't dismantle a whole system, but I can work with 40 students per semester and invest in their lives. And I tell the students at the end of every semester, I tell them how much I love them. I'm not like a regular schmegler degler teacher. Like, if you're in my class, it's lit. So I tell my students how much I love them, how much I'm thinking about them. I want invitations to your graduations and your weddings and your baby showers. Like, this is not a one and done with me. This is think of me as a big sister and mentor. And there are many students that hit me up. They ask for recommendations. I told anything that you need beyond this class, I will do my best, within reason. I have one student who reached out to me recently, has a very heartwarming story, arrived in Canada from India about 5 months ago. And we, because he opened up to me, we've become very, very close, and he's going to be working for me, right? Because he's 19, he's trying to get his feet wet, and just work for me. I want, you can't save the world, but those who choose to open up to me, I will always do everything in my power to be there for them, because all of us have one or two teachers that were so special to us, that didn't make us feel like a student member, that really saw us and who we were. Even some of us who are badass kids skipping class for these men. One of my teachers, she snatched me up and she's like, I don't know what the hell you're doing, but you better get your butt in my class. She was like an auntie to me, and so I still pop into school and I still go to my high school to see her. So teachers are special, and I'm it was a goal of mine for a very long time.
What's been the best advice or best lesson that you've learned along your journey?
Okay, it's going to be in relation to money, because I love money. And we haven't really talked about business, and I love business so much. So one of my favorite mentors, well, all of them are my favorite, but one of my mentors, I'd asked her, what was the path to making your first million? And she said relationship capital. And she was very, very accurate with that. And I was like, okay. Another mentor of mine, actually, let's talk about mentors for a second. That advice was relevant and important to me because I'm very ambitious, and if I'm going to be in business, I don't want to be 7th or 8th. I want to be number 1, maybe not number 2, right? So in my family, we didn't celebrate participant ribbons. You were 1 or none type of thing. So for me, my mentors, I'm with them for various reasons, but one of them is to help me scale. But I want to talk about mentors just for a quick second, right? How many of you have mentors? By show of hands, you have someone you can confide in, perfect, right? And I think that's amazing. One of the lessons I've learned is that mentors don't have to look like you. They don't have to be in your industry. It's very important to have a white male mentor. Those of us who are women of color, white men have audacity. They just think differently. The rules don't even apply to them. Well, the things that they get away with, my God, okay, right? So it's you want to have not even just white men, you want to have a male mentor in your vicinity. And also too, that you can learn from anybody. I think we're so addicted to ebooks and courses and online gurus and conferences. Hang out with the elders in your family. Hang out with the kids in your family that can teach you probably honestly some of the best lessons that you can never get from a mentor. plant your seeds, spread your seeds far and wide. I just really think that it's important. Oftentimes we just look so far outside of ourselves for answers that we already have within us. And I've just learned like the most unlikely people can teach you like the most beautiful treasured lessons.
Well, let's bring it back a couple years.
First of all, I love you. I love you too.
So
We met in grade 7.
from time. So the first brave, defiant thing that you did in my eyes was write a book called Everything I Couldn't Tell My Mother. I was like, not this black girl. Like, what? I know your mom. So I was shook for you. I still am. But like when you wrote that book and your mom was living, like, how did you find the bravery to write your truth and put it out there?
Yeah.
And how have you taken that bravery from the past? Because that book came out when?
2014.
Right, like
Yeah.
a good almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
How did you take that bravery from then and apply it to the business decisions that you're making today?
What a great, thoughtful question. Okay. It was scary as hell having a Caribbean mother. Like you guys, you know what kind of interesting complexities come with that. Any mother-daughter relationship is complex. Those of you who are best friends with your mom, well, I'm best friends now with my mother, but like I would see my friends at school like chummy with their moms. I'm like, how, right? I mean, it was in a season where I had dropped out of school, survived, suicide attempts, I'm trying to navigate depression and anxiety. So I'm in a season where I am practicing courageousness and bravery. So I'm riding this wave already, right? I got a second chance at life and I'm not going to squander it. So writing the book, it took me 4 years to write. I released it in 2014. I was very scared, but I knew that on the other side, you always hear the cliche, on the other side of fear, right? But it's actually really true, right? I knew that I had to let go. You and I share similar experiences, anger, resentment, like, it's just a lot. When dealing with parents, it's just a lot, right? Especially when you're at that age. I just knew that in order to like get to where I wanted, because I always knew I was going to be successful. It was just a matter of when it was going to be my turn, right? How I was going to do it, the path I was going to take. But if you have so much baggage weighing you down, you just simply can't soar, right? And so I had to address the relationship with my mother, take care of home that was my first step, to take care of home, right? Once I addressed the relationship with my mother, and once I published it, obviously it was rocky, but we got through it. And now we're like this. Like, I love my mama. Like, we're very, very close. But had I not address the hard conversations that most of us sweep under the rug, I really don't think I would be like here. And then honestly, once you stand up to your mama, you could do anything. Like, right? Like once you have those hard conversations and you get through it, you feel like you could do anything. So business, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely scary moments in business too. Like every day I'm just like, how am I even doing this? Like, it doesn't matter what level or what stage. I think everyone's still shocked. You're just like we made it through the pandemic. Yeah. You make it through day-to-day bullshit. Managing people and teams is hard. Like every day you're just like, wow. Like at the end of the day, I'm spent, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
To what you said about you don't have to be in a certain position to be influencing people. Like even just that first step could be a source of inspiration. I've known Pauleanna since we were in grade 7, rocking J-Lo headbands.
Velour suit.
Velour suits, so right. That was our thing. But like, you were probably the first out of high school to be making big steps. And I remember going, how the hell is she doing this? And I'm pretty sure whatever you were doing, I didn't know how you were doing it, but I knew it looked good and I wanted to have a taste of that. I don't think I would have maybe started my stuff if I didn't see you starting your stuff. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. What's the possibility model?
The possibility, well, exactly what Jamila just explained, exactly what I explained when I told you I read that article in 2014. It's like when you see another person who opens up a door of possibility to let you know that I can do that. If she can do it, I can definitely do it. You know what I mean? Like, not you per se, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes you're like, bitch, what? Like, nah, like, I can do that. But like, no, like, it just, and that's why it's important for all of us to share our stories in every capacity possible, because it opens up a door for someone who who maybe didn't think that they can take that next step.
And they're all significant stories.
Oh, absolutely. Sorry.
Or go ahead.
Oh, okay. A few weeks ago, you told me that about your 300 list of contact spreadsheets, and I was really amazed by them.
Oh yeah, hi!
We never met before. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, and I've created my own spreadsheet. So that's something that I thought that you kind of just base it on memory and you wing it as you go. But I was really impressed how intentional you were with your contacts. And I'm wondering if you're the same with seasonalities. I'm sure there's seasons to all of the things that you do, the writing, the agency, the course.
Yeah.
And how do you like I'm sometimes I see people
Juggling more than one ball.
yeah, but also like, for example, I have a friend that has a recruiting company and every January it's dead and every January he's shocked that it's dead. And I've been doing it for 3 years and now I'm starting to see the seasonality and I'm like, okay, why don't I respect the seasons and be in flow with them and plan ahead? Do you do that? And if so,
Yeah.
how do you deal with all the balls at your, oh, this sounds very sexual. But like, how do you deal with it all and the seasons and how do you respect the seasons of every endeavor that you have?
So the season that I'm respecting right now, this is actually the first in-person, no, I'm lying, second in-person event that I'm speaking at this year. I've said no to every opportunity. My mentor called me and she's like, do you want to go to an event at the White House? I said no. Like the season that I'm in, that I'm currently getting out of is like a seasonal detox, is sitting my ass down, is, just spending more time with God, I look forward to the studies that come out of, assessing our lack of attention, our obsession with social media. I personally struggled in the beginning because this year I was like not in the streets. I wasn't at events. I wasn't speaking anywhere. I was just managing my business and managing home. And I felt like the little girl that was like not allowed outside to play and just watching all my friends. Because when you stop, the world goes on without you. And so it can feel very uncomfortable. But I needed to respect this season because when I do choose to, come back out and actively be a participant, my muscles are going to be warm. I would have got my water. I would have got my rest. I would have been very happy looking back, knowing that I was obedient to my gut, to my God, and just knowing that it was the right choice that I had to make. So sometimes what happens is the currents and the waves and the seasons will come and they'll hit you unexpectedly and it doesn't make sense to you. Like, why? Like, you know what I mean? But I think being obedient to your gut, and I don't know, I think listening to your inner voice is very powerful. It'll never lead you astray. I've had the most regular summer of my life, the most boring summer, and I loved it, like I played Little Mermaid in the pool with my godchildren. I lay in the grass and I read books. I just do things that I haven't had the time to do. I haven't been traveling. And that's like not me at all. So, but yeah, I think when it comes to business though, like everybody, like different slow seasons, like when it's coming, I think it's important to know the temperatures and the waves of the year in order to prepare for them. So, tell your friend that he needs to pay more attention.
I wanted to ask a quick question.
What's been the most difficult thing on your journey?
Oh, I have another question.
Damon Dash has a really good quote. I hope I can remember it. He said, one of the most difficult parts of his journey is trying to operate with integrity in a room full of cheaters, right? And not selling your soul, not popping your pussy for $1, not taking shortcuts. And I'm not joking about these things, like not taking shortcuts, not dating that man, not, smiling in her face and not meaning it. Like there's so many, like, as you navigate business and you're trying to close deals and you're trying to make friends and you question if they're your friend, maybe like I have for me, when it comes to friendships, I put people in categories, right? And I do know there are some people that only mess with me because I write for Forbes. But as long as you pray for the discernment to identify their character, then you know how to work the chessboard, right? I look at life as a game of chess. That's my metaphor. And so like, I know the pieces, I know the responsibility, I know the functionality. As long as I know how to deal with you, then I'm okay. So like, I just like, I really Like that's the most difficult part. Like integrity, not like selling your soul, operating with integrity, having hard conversations with people on various levels, not taking shortcuts when you see people taking the shortcut or selling the 5-page ebook and they're a millionaire and like just weird shit. You're like, what's going on, right? And then on top of that, just like being able to be a good judgment of people's character so you know how to operate within certain spaces. All of that is hard.
Great conversation, very inspirational. My question is, you talked about having good days and bad days. How do you perform when you're having a bad day? So like, let's say you have to show up here, but yesterday you're just so down and depressed. How do you do that? How do you?
A few different things. So my therapist has taught me to identify and assess facts over feelings. Okay, Jamila and I share the same trainer, right? We share the same. Our trainer actually texted us at the same time and was like, "Are y'all in tomorrow?" We're like, "Ugh." But I'll take this as an example. So physical activity, like I love to train, but there are obviously days where like it's harder to get up than others. For me, it's about staying committed to the discipline and removing my emotion from it. Because like the thing is, if we only worked on the days where we felt good, like most of us wouldn't work at all, right? Like I try not to operate with my emotion, with my heart. It's like I'm committed to the process. I'm committed to the discipline. And I think that a lot of people lack discipline in their lives, in any area of their lives. It could be drugs, it could be sex, it could be alcohol, it could be whatever. And so like that has always, I was raised in a house of discipline. So just naturally speaking. So yeah, when I don't feel like it, it's like, honestly, girl, who cares about your feelings? It's not because also I never work because I honestly love my bed. Like I love, you know what I mean? Like I invest a lot in my sleep and my thread count and in my like I want to be in bed, but it's not about your feelings. And also too, like I just think ahead. I think about if I don't go to this training session, if I don't be with this client, if I don't speak on the stage, who stands to lose, right? Like who loses out and what opportunities will I miss and I'll just be further away from my goal.
How do you manage that need to like, this is my responsibility. I need to care about this person. I need to take care of this person. Where do you put the boundaries and how do you put those boundaries? Because like, as someone who like wants to make sure I'm there for everybody, where it's my responsibility to make sure that, you know, you're okay and I'm okay and everything. Where do you put the boundaries and how do you do that?
So my therapist taught me that when your values are clear, decisions are easy, right? And so I think it's
So many quotables.
it's just me, it's therapy. My therapist is amazing. And so it's just about priorities and having hard conversations, right? Like, so most of us as women, I feel like naturally we're nurturers and we want to be everything to everyone. But there's nothing wrong with having a conversation, okay? For a lot of us are the first, different, and only. A lot of us are making the most money out of other members of our family, right? And sometimes you feel the need to help or to stretch yourself. But sometimes, you know, you can have a conversation around so you're asking me for this opportunity or this dollar amount. Okay, what's the objective? What's the goal, right? You know, you can have conversations around letting them know that you're not their life jacket, right? Letting them know that you're not their lifesaver. Letting them know that, like, I will contribute to the cause, but I'm not your end-all solution. Like, we just need to have the conversations up front. And once you can master that, then it'll be so much easier to navigate life and business. I always tell my mom, like, I want to know what you're like before you had a kid. I only know you as mom. And she's like, I was in church. I was like, okay. Like, you know, it's like, come on. Like, our moms, like, they have this shield. They want to protect, like, their reputation. So, like, they won't tell you that they stayed out late at night or they're, you know, like, any of that stuff. So you kind of just see them as, like, this glorified parent. But it's like, I really want to know your heart. So, like, I don't know. I found that when I started being vulnerable, even though she hated, my mom used to hate when I would hit the stage and talk about any of this stuff. She would literally be like, you're making me look like a bad mom, you know? And I'm like, you did what you could with what you had, and this is my story to tell, right? Like, a lot of us, I'm sure, reputations are important. Like, our parents, our grandparents, it's like, don't talk about certain things that, like, outside of the home. I was always the black sheep and the rebellious one. Like, you have to get to a point in your life where you really don't give a fuck. Or else, honestly, you're always going to be a puppet to a puppeteer. And that's with, like, life and business. Like, you just have to get to a point where you can't. It'll always hold you back. It's either you're all in, I'm not giving a fuck, or you're just like,
you're gonna constantly be in that gray area. Yeah. Because like I can't hold myself back to spare feelings. You know, one of my life mantras is to always honor my feelings, no matter how uncomfortable or no matter how much it may hurt.
So I just finished my talk. I felt really good. Like I was on my shit. And I just love when women come together. I don't know, like there's something of whether it's 2 or 3 or 100, like I love the power of community. The energy in the room was really electric. And I hope that you also got something from it. And if you have any follow-up questions, let's keep the conversation going.